Okay, so today we're going to learn about what's called cellular automata. So, what is cellular automata? So, basically, what we have here is that you have a bunch of cells, and here are the cells, these little squares that you have, this grid. And what cellular automata are they're just simple programs, and this is one example of a cellular automata. This is called a cellular automaton, and this is the rule that we want to follow. How do we follow this rule? You start off with some initial condition, and in this case, I'm going to start off with the simplest initial condition as just this single square that's filled in, this single cell that's filled in. And then I'm going to figure out how to do the next row going down. So this next row, let's start with, let's say, this cell right here in the next row. And I could have started with this cell, but I'm starting with that cell in particular because you'll see that there's no reason to consider any cell to the left. Why? Because if I start with this one and I look, the rule that we follow is that we look to the 3 cells above that cell. So here are the 3 cells above that cell. 1, 2, 3. And what we want to do here is we want to go to our rule and we want to see exactly what to do given that these 3 cells above this cell are not filled in, okay, or let's say 0. So if we look and we see that this is filled in, right? That's not what we have here. What we have here is, let's say, not filled in, not filled in, not filled in, which is this situation, right? So we see that we don't want to fill in that cell because it tells you what exactly to do, which is to not fill in the cell. And that would apply for all the cells to the left. Now let's consider another cell. Let's consider the cell right here. Let's consider this cell right here. And let's look at the 3 cells above that cell. So if you look at the 3 cells, it's this configuration where it's not filled in, not filled in, filled in. And the one that one is this one right here. And we see that then what we want to do is actually fill in the cell below. So I want to fill in this cell right here. That's the idea. Okay, and I'm just going to erase so it looks a little bit better. And I'm going to fill in this cell right here. And I keep going like this. And I'm just following this rule to each cell going down. And I'll do it again 2 more times. Fill in this a little bit better. Probably filled in a little bit worse. Okay, and then now I go to the next cell and I look at this one. Well, what's above this cell? What configuration is the 3 cells above this cell in? And we see that it's not filled in, not filled in, which is this configuration right here. So I don't fill in that cell. And then I go to this cell right here and I look again at the 3 cells above it and we see that it's filled in, not filled in, not filled in. So where's that? Right here. And it tells me that if it's filled in, not filled in, not filled in, then I fill it in. I do the 1. I do this. And then I go over here and I see that it's 3 blank cells again, so there's no reason for me to consider anything more to the right. And I go to the next row and I do the same thing. So I don't need to consider this because I see that the 3 cells above are not filled in, and I know the rule is always not filled in for 3 cells that are not filled in. So I go to the next cell right here and I see that it's not filled in, not filled in, filled in, which is this rule right here. So then I go and I fill in this cell. And I would continue this going down. Now, this is clearly a fairly simple set of rules that we have here. And this rule, again, is one cellular automaton. But I could easily change the rule so that way if I have this configuration, so it's filled in, not filled in, then I would fill it in. And I change the rule now to a different cellular automaton. But for our purposes, we're just going to keep going with this rule right here. So let's keep going. Let's see. Let's get rid of, oh no, it's okay. So let's keep going with this rule right here. Let's fill this in. And then again, if I look right here, it should be that I fill this cell in. And if I look to the next cell and I consider the 3 cells above it, this cell right here, right, it's not filled in, not filled in, which is this one right here. And it's telling me don't fill it in. So I don't fill that one in right there. and so forth. And I continue this going on and on. Now, we're going to hopefully be able to speed this up. That was easy. That only took, I don't know how long, but however long it took that long. And now what we see here is this pattern, which to me is surprising, because here you have this set of simple rules, and you generate this very pretty object ultimately, and it would continue forever if I went down. We could see how many steps that I had done. Let's see how many steps I did. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And a step is just a row. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 steps. So 28 steps of Rule 90 is what I did here. And again, I got this pattern from this rule, but it's easy. I could have changed the rule, so I put this one here, and I would have gotten something very different. So now, let's see what happens when we try different rules.